Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the professor, and this is the moment of truth.
Number one issue in exit polls in the state of Pennsylvania was abortion. Number one issue for John Fetterman and also for Josh Shapiro, who won big. David, let you take it wherever you want. You've got the smart mind about what happens from here and what happened last night. But independents, a fascinating number there. In off-year elections, the out party usually loses independents by wide margins. Early on here this morning, we're seeing Democrats winning by a couple of points, holding on to those votes.
Well, the lesson is there are more conservatives in every swing district and swing state than there are liberals. So the math is simple. Democrats have to do at least enough on turnout. They have to win the middle of the electorate everywhere. And they were able to do that last night, I think, in part or largely because of abortion. The other thing is voters under 30. I think they were underrepresented in polls. Yep. And so, if our democracy is saved and we sit here on January 21st, 2025 after the presidential election, we have a democracy, we need to thank young people who turned out to protect the enterprise.
So, MSNBC, at least, has gone from saying that black women saved America, black women saved democracy, at least they had a few Negroes saying that, because practically none of their white commentators or politicians would dare say that, to now you got these white politicians, and in the case of David Plouffe, a senior Democratic strategist and advisor saying young people are who we should be thanking for saving America. If America's going to be saved, it's going to be young people doing it. Not only did Plouffe and nobody else on that panel say a word about black women, they didn't say a word about black people in general. Oh, how quickly they change. Now, you didn't seriously think that during the 2022 midterms, the most important election of our lifetimes, where democracy hangs by a thread and we gotta stop fascism this year, you didn't seriously believe that they were going to thank black voters or mention us, especially not with the way that black folks have been pushing back and making demands for tangibles, did you? There's a plan underway for the Democrats to begin drawing together a new political coalition, which will be based on white suburbanites, immigrants, and others, anyone but black people, especially black Gen Xers and younger, because we're proving to be disobedient and we're getting more black people to follow our lead. We wasted a lot of years looking for respect in an abusive relationship. They know that they need black votes to win, but for the DNC leadership, it's not about winning elections alone. It's about maintaining a racial status quo. The DNC leaders are talking about reaching out to and appealing to white conservatives, but notice you don't have any morons like nigga Jim Clyburn telling white conservatives, stop sloganizing. Y'all need to stop it with this stop the steal stuff. Slogans kill. They don't call themselves lecturing and upbraiding white conservatives. They don't do that, because the white conservatives are out there in the suburbs that they're hoping to sway. They show more respect for white right-wingers who hate them and aren't even voting for them than they do for the very black voters who put them in office and kept them there. And because the white media, police, and government are all part of the same white supremacist beast, you already should understand that when you hear this political strategist talking about how his party needs to cater to the conservatives, that's the position of the white media outlet that he's on too. Both MSNBC and CNN, as well as the rest of the establishment agenda-setting media, want those white right-wingers out in the suburbs, and they have long tried to appeal to them. David Plouffe was telling you not just his own ideology, he was repeating what the head honchos at MSNBC and CNN have long said. He didn't say a word about black people, didn't even mention us. He made it clear what the DNC objective is. Lean to the right. Avoid black demands. Don't even mention black people. Appeal to white conservatives and young voters. By young, that means young white voters and so-called dreamers. That means immigrants. At no point did David Plouffe mention black voters for the exact same reason that racist Rahm Emanuel never mentioned us when he talks about Biden Republicans. And what's the issue that David Plouffe talked about? Abortion. So there's to be no mention of black issues or even black people. That's the new paradigm that they're trying to put in place. That's what the new format's going to be. Keep in mind, David Plouffe is a former Obama administration official. He was Obama's senior policy advisor. This is a man who was Barack Obama's right-hand man. So what that lets you know is this is exactly the kind of talk that was going on in the Obama White House. This is what was going on. And some Negroes actually are silly enough to have to wonder why Obama didn't do anything for black folks. Because what you heard David Plouffe saying is exactly what Barack Obama and the rest of the DNC hierarchy and them bootlicks they got in Congress and other places are saying. It's all about circumventing the black vote. They're out for self. And I guess they were just wondering how long would it be before black folks figured it out. And now that it seems that a critical mass of us have, they're going, okay, it's time to pivot. Time to go ahead and dump these Negroes. The grift must go on. This is the Democrats' response to black people organizing to make tangibles for us an issue. There's a program at work here. Now that more and more black people are declaring no tangibles, no vote, Democrats are scrambling to stitch together a non-black voter base. All those people talking, and none of them mentioned black voters at all, they smiled and bragged about Fetterman and Shapiro winning their races handily. But they pretend that Philadelphia and Pittsburgh had nothing to do with that. Their goal is to manufacture the fiction that all that matters are white suburbanites. Plouffe is sending out the message that they have to move now to woo those white moderates. Do it now before black people undermine and destabilize the status quo any further. When you look at how chummy trash like Jim Clyburn and Nancy Pelosi are with big corporations, you see that they have no problem pivoting to the right. They have the same disdain for us that an Elon Musk or a Bill Gates has. Clyburn practically spouts the pull yourself up by your bootstraps speech that Lindsey Graham does. You can take the bootlick off the sharecropper's farm, I suppose, but you can't take the sharecropper out of the bootlick. Democrats are fighting a war against us, and a lot of us aren't fighting back because we're wanting a pat on the head. The Democrats learned 50 years ago that they didn't need to give us any tangibles, so the only carrot they've been offering is merely to not be overtly racist towards us. Some of us are so beaten down, so weak, that these white supremacists don't have to do good by us at all. All they have to do is just not burn a cross on our front lawn, and that's sufficient. And for some of us, if they do burn a cross on our front lawn, that's okay, just so long as they don't lynch us. We have to adopt and adapt to the mindset of seeking power, and there's no place for appeasement in that pursuit. Power is not a popularity contest, but too many of us, that's all we care about, being popular with all the wrong people. We care about that more than our own survival or our children's. That's got to change. I've said it a million times. If you want people to like you, that's easy. Just say yes to whatever they tell you to do. Be their doormat and everyone will like you, or at least they'll act like they do. On the other hand, if you want to be respected, then you better start learning to say no. Teach people that they can't take you for granted. Start saying no. And before people come to you about anything, they're going to have to think first. They'll have to consider what do they need to do in order to get your cooperation. Black voters have carried the Democratic Party on our backs, and we have nothing to show for it. And now that we're starting to make demands, they're turning tail and trying to slap together a coalition, one that won't leave them vulnerable to black people withholding their vote. Because you see, this isn't about winning elections for them, it's about maintaining the status quo. And that means the racial pyramid that has black people at the bottom with absolutely nothing. But our goal cannot be to merely undermine the do-nothing political hucksters in the Democratic Party. The goal is, and has to be, taking power into our own hands. Because black empowerment simply will not come into its own until after we've proven we can occupy the spaces of political power on our own terms. The goal has always been to put ourselves in the driver's seat. Pressuring the Democrats for things that we need, that happens to be a means to an end, not an end unto itself. The goal is always to make sure that we're not needing to go to anybody because we've got enough power to get what we need for ourselves. The point of this morning's briefing is to remind you that our progress and success is not measured by whether the Democrats happily acknowledge the pressure that we're putting on them, any more than our progress at reaching the black masses was based on whether white cable outlets acknowledged us. For many years, they've known that we were out here, and they tried to ignore us out of existence. That's because the white media usually can do that. If they pretend like you don't exist, basically you don't. And they tried that strategy for many years, with people like Jason Johnson and others occasionally showing that they were well aware of us. But of course, when these people went on air, they acted like we didn't exist. At least for a while they tried to. But in the last few years, they've been forced to have to take shots at us because we weren't going away. and we were louder than them, attracting more attention than them. More of you were listening to us with each passing day. Joy Reid was among the first. She had a so-called guest on her show do the dirty work and call us Russian bots. You notice they haven't been doing that in years. And when that didn't work, they had people like Tiffany Cross come for us. And after yesterday on Q, we've been seeing the shea butter butt kissers who have been trying to gin up the old gender war, but that's not going to work. What's been happening is that there's been this aggressive effort by the grassroots to shut that noise down, to make it clear that they won't be allowed to simply say, black men won't get in line and then walk away. I've seen what you, the grassroots, have been doing, and you've been making it clear that whenever they try to do the old gender war, gender divide, you immediately step in and tell them you're not going to dump on black men, and no, you're not going to drive wedges between black men and black women on these political issues. We're better than that. We're smarter than that. We understand that white power does not want us to put the issue on black people's concerns in general. They want to fragment us and fracture us, divide and conquer. They want us to turn on each other, to blame each other and argue amongst ourselves. Because if we're busy fighting each other, we're not fighting white supremacy. Now, it's important to keep tabs on what the enemy is saying at all levels. These are the people who are fighting us. They're the ones leading the charge against us. So we need to know what they're up to. But make no mistake, the most important thing is what we are doing. Each one of you should see yourselves as what you are, a one-person black empowerment operation. This fight can be organized online, but it will never be won online. That's what the shea butter crowd will never understand. The next big step for what we're doing is going to be offline. But no one person or even small group of people can get it done. All of us have to be on the warpath for black empowerment. Democrats are trying to put together a political counterweight to what we're doing, a coalition that will make it where they can win elections without having to rely on black voters. Ultimately, our goal must be to pursue strategies that will enable us to take the political power we need without having to rely on them. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Sharice Matthews, Hollingsworth, Murad Campbell, N. Bonaparte, and Mark Jefferson. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.